And I would say that one of the other things that comes to mind while you were talking about lingering and also being vulnerable enough in front of your son to apologize is that that's just a real great example of grace and asking him for forgiveness and number one, recognizing that mom's not right. And then also how you have to deal with that yourself in terms of guilt. And I think that one of the other really important components in wellness is definitely there's grace as a spiritual component, but also just kind of trying to, I use the word grace and I certainly don't mean it sacrilegiously to suggest that we should have grace in terms of some of the things, the way that we perceive ourselves or the way that we treat ourselves in terms of the body image and the discussion. And it just made me think about it like when you were saying, I felt so bad, and we do beat ourselves up as parents. You know, we certainly don't get it right all the time, but and there's a lot of times where I'm left thinking, I should have done that differently. But I think that in thinking about the way that Christ forgives us and how we have to forgive our children and our spouses, sometimes I think that one of the things that I try to encourage people is to demonstrate grace to themselves in terms of trying to be reasonable and be a better friend, almost, if you will, to yourself. Like a lot of times I think that the person that I've been the most horrible to or the most critical is to myself. And so I think that that's also a really important component of wellness is so true. As we age, our expectations of ourselves and our bodies need to change because otherwise, I'm never going to look like I did when I was 18. I sure wish I did, but I'd be a very wealthy person if I could make that happy for everyone or happen for everyone. But I just think that like the expectations need to change. The expectations need to be reasonable and gracious. And so, whether or not you're on a fitness journey for the first time or you're a well-seasoned athlete, think that if you can kind of find that sweet spot of, like you're saying, how for you it's going to the gym 4 days a week. For someone else it might be 3 or 2 or just getting started. But not to compare is really hard. And then also to just give yourself that space and that grace to try and do your best. But that doesn't mean that it's either I'm over here eating donuts or I'm over here, as a perfectionist. There's that whole space and that huge pendulum. And I think that part of when you were asking me about like how do you get to a place of being content and being peaceful and having joy is finding that sweet spot for yourself.